Hey T-Man, do you mind showing me how to set up a SFML scene manager?
Huh.
Hey man, what did you come up with? Ah, I figured as much. Here, drink this. You'll feel much better. Poor guy'll be alright. After all that hard thinking, he just needed an IQ potion. Alright, so now that we got past all that, I'm going to show you how I would create a SFML scene manager. Now, one quick moment before I show you that, it's important to think of some reasons why you might want to do that. For instance, let's say you created a game like Minecraft, which has the nether, the regular world, and the end. And we'll just call those dimensions to make things simple. So let's say you want to go to another dimension. You don't want to have everything rendering in another dimension if you're not there, because you want to save on resources and memory. And that's where a scene manager can come in handy and become very useful just for situations like this. So here's my implementation of a scene manager using SFML. All right, now that we have our project open, I'm gonna get straight to the point. Here in the side area where you can see all your files, I just got a couple of test asset scenes. You can hover over it, you can see it. I got one for a background for each scene. I got a folder named scenes, of course, but in my source folder, the first thing you're gonna need is a scene.cpp and a scene.h. I'll close everything else for now. That way it'll be easier to everything but the main and scene. All right. So on our scene class in our header, we're gonna create a virtual destructor, just like this. I'm gonna go through fast. You can pause it if you need more time. A virtual void start, virtual void update, and virtual void render. Takes all these parameters here, as you can see, and right here in the CPP, we actually do nothing but include scene. All right. So now, what we're gonna do is go to our scene manager class. I'll show you how it works. First, in our scene manager header, we're actually gonna put all of our code, I believe. Yep, all of our code in the scene manager header. So we have a scene manager reference for getting the instance, static scene manager instance. I'll just scroll through. You can pause it if you need to pause. Set the set active scene function here. Takes a unique pointer of type scene, and I just named it new scene, and then active scene equals std move new scene, which is essentially reassigning the unique pointer. Or actually, whatever this is, the shared pointer is going to be now assigned to that. But I'll scroll down slowly so you can copy it. The update function I have here says if active scene is not null, then we're going to update it. And it takes the update function, is the scene function, which takes a delta time, as you can see, as I showed you right here. Takes a DT, and there's nothing in the scene itself, so I'll show you how that works. So you take a render window reference for your window in render. Here's your private constructor. And what I did here was in the private constructor, so the first scene will be a main menu scene. And you could have a list of scenes. I commented it out by having a shared pointer of scenes, but I had to change these functions a little bit. But this way you only have one active scene at a time, active scene, by having a shared pointer of type scene to active scene. Now I will show you one of the scenes to show you how it works. Let me get to my scenes folder. Main menu scene, so I included the scene manager here. IOStream, I just included it because I was testing and for error purposes. And I included the game scene because I'm going to be switching to the game scene. Now this is just basic SFML stuff. When it starts, it loads the sprite, sets its position. Here's its start function, and here's its update function. So when it starts, the scene manager is going to be calling this, since this is the first scene, it's going to be calling this update function, and all it's doing is drawing the background sprite. And if I press key, the enter key, it's going to go to a game scene. And I'll show you, there's one more thing you have to do in here. Let me show you, I had to do one more thing. In the CPP, I ended up having to include the scene manager so I could go ahead and close some of this in case you try to do this so you don't have getting issues like I did. So I needed the scene manager so I could change scenes, but if you include it in the header file, it's not going to work. The thing is, in your scene manager, right here in your scene manager H, you need to include every single, well actually don't have to include every single one. You do need to include your main scene. You need to include scene and your main menu scene. But for me to change the scene here in the main menu, I had to have a game scene and I had to include the scene manager so I could access it. But if you include the scene manager in the header, since the scene manager already has an inclusion of this, it won't work. So you need to include the scene manager in your main menu.cpp file. That's how you can do includes if it's not working, so you don't get double includes. And basically, I'll show you in the main function how this works. After I press enter, it switches to the game scene. So I'll show you that. The game scene, you know, it's got the same functions as the one you're going to have your start, update, and render functions. And a constructor, same as the main menu scene, has its own constructor and whatnot. I just copied this variable over. So right here, I have close game equals false. I was going to use this, but I decided not to do it. So you can just ignore this for now, and I just close the game in the main function, but you can also add functionality for that. So in the game scene, there's nothing really different going on. It's just drawing the sprite. And it says if the G key is pressed, it's going to set the active scene to a main menu scene. So this way you can have each scene has its own start, update, and render function, which you can have called. Which start you would actually need to include, like if you're going to call the start function, you would just include it right here. But there's nothing in it, of course. So that's where you put your start function at, and then just put your start code inside here. And your initialization code in the game scene as well in the constructor, or in your constructor, because it could be named any scene. So anyways, now you see that, I'm going to show you how you call it. So I just created a basic SFML project. I have my render window here. This says SFML 64-bit, included my scene manager. And now that we have that, just basic stuff, just getting the delta time. But then after the scene manager, after the window, the game loop started, we're just going to do scene manager get instance update. And then window clear, scene manager get instance render. And I'll show you what this is doing exactly again. This way now it'll make sense. See, the update is updating the current active scene, and the render is rendering what's in the active scene. So now that you see how it's working, it's not really nothing too difficult. And as always, you know, our scene manager by default, when it's called, has the main menu, so we'll always be on the main menu when we start up. So now when we run it, on to run, there we go. This is just a little test title screen for my game. We're on Forgeville. Press enter, and we go to another little AI generated logo I made. And then I can press G, go back, and then by doing this, still have a little bit of debugging showing in the background, but by doing this, you can see that now we're creating scenes. So you could use this to create a really complicated game, or you could create your game which has a bunch of mini games in a main menu, and you could launch whichever scene you want depending on what they click on the main menu, and then vice versa, and go back to the main menu. So I hope this helped you guys and you guys found this useful. If you made it all the way through the video, please comment below, I'm not the T-Man. That way I'll know you made it. And if you enjoyed this and got some use out of it, please hit the like and subscribe button. It helps a lot. And I'll be updating you guys on some more SFML tutorials and my game that's coming up, and a little bit about Mono Game in the next video. So I'll see you guys in the next video. Take care.